Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Four men have killed themselves in the UK in the last year after becoming victims of sextortion, the police say. Sextortion is essentially blackmail, where criminals trick people into performing sexual acts online and then demand money to stop the images being passed on to others. Thousands of mainly men are falling victim to it. Hampshire Constabulary recently launched a campaign to encourage victims to come forward. This is Gary's story. He's in his late teens, he's from Hampshire. His words are spoken for him because he wanted to stay anonymous.
I was so lonely, so I tried going online to meet people. I'd go online once an evening over the course of a few months. I went on different dating websites, wanting to get to know people on there. This made me happier. I felt better. One of the people I'd been talking to suggested I go onto Skype. I'd been talking to them for a while, so I thought, why not? They seemed persistent, which in hindsight was the first warning sign. I was receiving quite a few messages, once a day or twice a day. She asked me for my Facebook profile and picture. The conversations had lasted a week or two, more than previous ones. It seemed normal. Then this woman started talking intimately. She invited me onto Skype, where she looked similar to her profile picture. She was halfway across the room. It lasted around 30 to 45 minutes, all on the phone. She said, "Show me a bit more and show me your face." Then the messages came up. Pay 500 or this is going all over Facebook. I want 500. Then she started listing my friend's details. I said I couldn't afford £500. She said 200 was the lowest. I said I could only pay £50. I offered to go to the bank, but went to the police station instead. I was trembling throughout the whole thing, shaking and thinking, what's going to happen? This will ruin my life, and did not know what to do. If this video is released onto Facebook, what would I do? What's going to happen with my job? What will my friends think? I thought about suicide. It would have been too embarrassing. I would not have been able to face anyone. But I went to the police and kept her talking by saying I was at the bank. Messages came through abusing me and saying I will keep doing it. The police officers handled it well. They stopped and helped me through it. They made me feel better. I needed to talk to someone. Since then, I've tried to put it to the back of my mind, and I've moved on with my life. There is always life afterwards, but I would not be here today if I had not spoken to anyone.
Well, let's speak now to Laura Higgins, who is the operations manager at the Revenge Porn Helpline. They work in partnership with the NCA on sextortion cases. She's in Exeter. And DCI Paul Gelman, who is Hampshire Force's senior lead officer on preventing cybercrime. He is in Southampton. Thank you both very much for talking to us. Laura Higgins, how is sextortion different from revenge porn?
The motivations behind it are really different. So with revenge porn, it's normally somebody that is known to the victim, and the purpose really is, to destroy their reputation and their life. With sextortion or cyber-enabled blackmail, it is purely financially motivated. If anything, the victims mean nothing to the people who are carrying out the offences. They really are there just to get money. They're seen as kind of just, secondary. There's no feeling about it at all.
What sort of people are victims of sextortion?
Really sadly, anyone can be a victim. In fact, about a third of our clients are actually women, which isn't talked about very often. But we have seen every age. Sadly, yesterday we actually dealt with a case of a 13-year-old, and we've dealt with people in their late 70s who've been victims. So really, it is right across the range. These gangs just target people in huge, huge numbers.
So girls, boys, men, women, pensioners, famous people?
Oh yes, unfortunately we do have people in quite high-profile positions. You know, we've had MPs who've been targeted, we've had sports coaches and celebrities. And the sad thing is, I think because we have this idea that, you know, old celebrities might release sex tapes and things like that on purpose, you know, they're victims just the same as anyone else. It can be really life-destroying.
Paul Gelman, how do you advise people to avoid falling into this trap?
I think the key thing is a serious prevention message. It's about if you were in the street and you met a very attractive woman who within 5 minutes encouraged you to take off your clothes while she videoed you, you wouldn't do that. And online it's the same thing really, is if you don't think it's going to happen in the real world, online is still the real world, it's not a fantasy world. So you need to understand that whatever you do there can have repercussions.
What kind of cases have you come across?
Well, we deal with them, unfortunately, on a daily basis. And we've actually seen this crime type evolve as well. When we first started dealing with victims of this, it was about exposing them committing a sexual act. Unfortunately, what we've seen is this crime evolve. And what we're seeing now is that very intimate moment of the video footage between the young man and an attractive young woman, is that woman is removed and a child's image or child's video footage is introduced, and then the victim is blackmailed on being accused of being a paedophile. So you can imagine the devastating effect that would have on any person.
Wow.
To be accused of such a horrendous crime. And I think the reason the organised crime gangs that are doing this is for two reasons. One, it adds more pressure for the victim to pay, but it also isolates them from law enforcement, from the police, because would they be willing to come forward and say, there is footage on YouTube of me engaging in sexual acts with a video of a child also included in that footage.
Yeah.
So it's a really, truly evil crime on a global scale being run by organised crime.
Laura, as I said in the introduction, 4 men sadly killed themselves in the last year after being blackmailed as part of a sort of sextortion racket. What do you say to people who feel that that is the only route out for them when they perhaps have been caught up in this?
That's really not uncommon. Most of the people who come to us, they are so desperate, you know, they can't see any other way out. So the first thing is, please, please, please go and talk to somebody. We will help to reassure you. And as the recording, the message from the victim, you know, things do get better, but you will need help. You know, yes, of course, it's a very scary situation, but we do understand, you know, you are a victim of a very serious crime. The people who organise this, they're very, very clever. In a way, it's a kind of grooming of adults. People feel quite foolish, but in reality, you know, they're very clever, and as I say, they you know, they're very convincing. So people really need to be kinder to themselves, get the help they need, and we can help you get back on track.
And what would you say, DCI Paul Gelman? Because I can imagine for someone who has been caught up in this, particularly with the last example you gave us, actually, you know, ringing the police might be the last thing you want to do.
That's very true. We do recognise that. We recommend that they look at our websites to at least get some support and guidance. But I think the key message is, and very much how Derek Bell reported earlier, the police have changed in how we view these things. We come forward in leaps and bounds in the last years. We're not judgmental. We recognise these people are victims. We'll treat them in confidence, and we'll provide them additional support to get through this horrendous ordeal. The key things we're going to say to our victims is don't pay, don't communicate any further with the offenders, and don't delete anything, because we can use that as potential evidence to lead us to where these organised crime gangs are operated from.
Thank you both very much. Really appreciate your time. Thank you. That's DCI Paul Gelman from Hampshire Constabulary and Laura Higgins, who works at the Revenge Porn Helpline.
I've been getting away with it all my